you. Just repeat that again, what you just said, a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm saying that the presentation that you sent me, I thought that after going through this, I'll do a little bit more of research on internet to find out more about this personality. And then a little pastime happened, which shows how powerful this personality is. We're talking about Rasikanand Prabhu. So I got a message on a WhatsApp group that we are going for book distribution. Some devotees sent the message, and whoever wants to join us, please come. So I thought, okay, I'll go. And I went there with the intention of doing book distribution. But I look what I found. I found a book on the entire life of Rasikanand Prabhu. So I got enough content. This is a book by Bhakti Vikas Swami. And
there's so much.
So he's a very powerful personality, Rasikanand Prabhu. So obviously I couldn't read everything within the past one day, but whatever little, some chapters I skimmed through. So I'll try to share those details.
Perfect. Very good. Thank you so much. Well done. Impressive. And that's a huge book. I couldn't find that much on Rasikananda.
Yeah.
Well done. I think you're going to have to do all the presentations from now on.
Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can. We can.
Okay. I'm trying to go full screen.
Slideshow. And then current, play for current. Okay. That's
Om Agyantimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vande Ham Shri Gurun Shri Rupa Padakamlam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरि प्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंदा। नमः ओम विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते कृष्णदास स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमः ओम विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। So thank you, Navi Prabhu, for giving me this opportunity and engaging me in this service. And please forgive me and correct me if I make any mistake.
No,
Sure. So today being the disappearance day of His Grace Rasikanand Prabhu, we'll try to glorify him and know a little bit more about him today. So Rasikanand Deva Goswami appeared in this world on the day of Deepavali in 1590 AD in the village of Rohini, also pronounced as Rohini or Raini, in the current Midnapur district. This village is situated at the confluence of the Subarna Rekha and Dolanga rivers. His father's name was Raja Achyutananda and his mother was Bhavani Devi. This, as far as I know, this district is in current West Bengal, but at that time it used to be part of Orissa, which was called Utkal. So the Subarna Rekha river crosses back and forth across the present day Bengal Orissa border, and Midnapur district used to be a part of the Orissa kingdom at that time, yes. So Raja Achyutananda was an Odissan of the Karana caste, the equivalent of the Kayasts in Bengal. And although Vaishnava is beyond the material qualities and should not be judged in terms of his caste origins, that was his background. He was also known by the name of Rasik Murari and just Murari. And in the village where he lived, he was very famous and he had two names, Rasikananda and Murari. And thus he was also called Rasik Murari. And he became very learned in the scriptures in his childhood itself. So he showed all the symptoms and all the signs of a great devotee right from his birth. So when they were doing his first prince ceremony or the naming ceremony, when they do that past, they do that there's that ceremony where they put a few items in front of the child and they see what the child chooses to pick up. So Rasikanand Prabhu chose the Srimad Bhagavatam and he held it to his heart and started crying at the same time. So he just didn't pick it up, and he was a baby, probably 1 year old or less than that, infant basically.
Probably 6 months is the time when it's
Um,
normally done. So
green,
yeah,
green giving ceremony
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Right. So he picked up Bhagavatam and not just picked up and started playing with it like a child, but he held it to his heart and started crying. And at that time, all the people understood that he is not an ordinary personality. There was also another time when they were doing another similar ceremony. I think the ear piercing ceremony for him. And at that time, again, a lot of devotees came, and there was one lady whose name was Dayal Bhavani, I think. She was a very advanced devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when she came, as soon as she looked at the child, she fainted. And when she regained consciousness, she told everyone that I saw Gopal in this child. And I even, in her dreams, she saw his future and she said that he's going to convert, he's going to spread Vaishnavism and Bhakti all over Orissa. And that actually turned out to be true, even though she predicted it at a when he was a very young child. So right from his birth, basically, there were all these pastimes happening which show that he was not an ordinary personality. And he was very devoted to his parents, especially his mother, whose name was Bhavani. His father married him at a very young age, and Murari, his wife Shamdasi, was a treasure chest of good character who hailed from the village of Ghota Shila, not far from Rohini, on the banks of the Suvarna Rekha, where in earlier ages the Pandavas had lived in exile. And he was a king. He was the child of a king, right? King Achyutananda. So they had homes in the various places of their kingdom. So they also had a home in Ghota Shila, in this place, and they went there and lived there for some time, and that's where he eventually find his spiritual master. So we'll come to, I'll talk more about that pastime when we get to that point, but it's very interesting. So he was always anxious to find a spiritual master who could give him guidance on the mystical path. Even though he was learned in scriptures and people already knew that he was a great personality, but he did not have a spiritual master by then. And he was showing all the symptoms of a pure, great devotee. And even as a child, people who were elder to him used to respect him because of his character and the things that he did. For example, whenever he would go to, he would always love and serve Gau Matas. And whenever he would go to a temple, he would just immediately start cleaning everything and make the temple super clean, and use cow dung to sanctify the temple. And then he would tell all the people there that this is how a temple should be kept. So when all the priests and adults in that area saw how a child was cleaning the temple and behaving, they all felt ashamed of themselves and they tried to learn from him. So all this he was doing even before he found a spiritual master. So he was very anxious to find a spiritual master. So one day, when he was traveling with his father to in this place, right, Ghanta Shila, he went to a solitary place to meditate. And this place was in the middle of the forest, near a water body. Perhaps it was this river Suvarna Rekha. Yeah. And that was the exact place where Pandavas had lived for some time when they were in exile. So he used to sit there and meditate. And when he was in a very deep meditation, he heard a voice from an unseen source say that Murari, you need be anxious no longer. Your guru is Shamanand and you will meet him here very shortly. Take shelter of him and your life will be successful. Now, in the book that I was showing, it is described in more detail that this voice was none other than Lord Krishna. And when he heard this voice, he opened his eyes and he even saw the form of Lord Krishna. And whenever, as soon as he saw that form, he was obviously surprised and he paid his obeisances, done with pranams. And as soon as he got up, then the Lord had already vanished by then. So he became very sad and he started looking around and started praying that where are you, Lord, my Lord, and how will I find my guru? And he just kept chanting his guru's name, Shamananda, Shamananda. He just started calling out his name as if he was chanting his name continuously. And then in this book, it is described that even before this happened, Shamananda also saw a dream in which Lord Krishna came and told him. Shamananda was in Vrindavan, by the way, in Brajbhumi, and he was in Odisha. So they're like miles apart. And Lord Krishna is appearing in dreams of both of them and telling them to meet each other. So he ordered Shamananda that you go to Odisha and there you will find my dear devotee Rasika. You go and initiate him, and then with his help spread the Gaudiya Vaishnavism in the entire Odisha. He'll help you do that. But he didn't really immediately follow that instruction. So then it is said that Shamananda Prabhu was also a very powerful personality, as many of you would know. He had the darshan of Radharani and Lalita Sakhi, and he found her anklet, and that the sign of that anklet was marked on his forehead permanently. He could not even wipe it off even if he wanted to. So he was such a powerful personality, and Lord Krishna came in his dream and instructed him, but somehow he didn't take it seriously. So then the Lord appeared in his spiritual master's dream, Jiva Goswami's dream also, and told him to order his disciple Shamananda to go to Odisha to initiate Rasikanand Prabhu. So Jiva Goswami also did that. He told him that you please go to Odisha and find out this devotee Rasikanand, and please initiate him, accept him as your disciple. So then he eventually went to Odisha, and by that time, Rasikanand Prabhu had also seen Lord Krishna, who told him that you will be initiated by Shamanand Prabhu. So he was very eager, and he was eagerly waiting for Shamanand Prabhu. And he after that incident, he actually fainted, and he was like fainted and he lied on the ground the whole night. And his father and their men, they were trying to find him, and they finally found him in the morning and brought him home. But he was not interested in anything. They cleaned him up and dressed him up, but he was just chanting his guru's name, Shamanand, Shamanand. And he again went back and sat in that place where he saw Lord Krishna, and he started looking at the path there patiently, because he knew that it had been told to him that he will come and initiate you here. So he just kept on looking at that path. There was one path there where people could come and go. So he kept looking there that when will Shamananda come, sorry. And soon after that, he actually saw Shamanand Prabhu coming, and he was coming with all his disciples like Kishore Das and others. And both of them were like very happy to see each other, and they both embraced. And Shamanand Prabhu was crying so much that he almost drenched Rasikanand Prabhu in his tears. And eventually he gave him initiation and he became his disciple. So yeah, this is the description of the same thing that I was saying. So he spent the entire night crying out of eager expectation to meet his guru, until finally at the end of the night he had a dream vision of Shamanand Prabhu. Okay, so I missed this. So after Lord Krishna appeared to him in his dream, he was so anxious and eager that even Shamanand Prabhu had to come in his dream and told him that don't worry, don't be so anxious. I'm coming. I'm on my way, and I'll meet you. And I'll meet you on this very day. So at dawn, Rasika Murari was on the lookout for his guru when he saw the tall figure of Shamanand approaching him as effulgent as the sun. Surrounded by disciples like Kishore Das, he was dancing in a state of absorption in divine love while chanting the names of Nityanand and Chaitanya. Rasik Murari had been waiting anxiously for so long to encounter his guru that he immediately fell down at his feet, and Shamanand affectionately lifted him up and embraced him. And then, after giving him the Radha Krishna mantra, he offered him to Chaitanya and Nityanand Prabhus. So this whole story demonstrates that what is the way to find a guru through sincere prayers. We often heard Guru Maharaj and other spiritual masters saying that by Krishna's mercy you find a guru, and then by Guru's mercy you find Krishna. And we see that happening in this example very clearly in this Leela. So this very clearly proves it, those words, that by Krishna's blessings we find a guru. In this case, the guru was clearly ordered to go and meet his disciple. So Krishna arranged all this, and then obviously by his guru's mercy, he would eventually uh, meet Krishna. So on an auspicious day, Shamanand initiated Rasik and his wife both at the same time in Radha Krishna mantra, and Rasikanand Prabhu fully committed himself in body, mind and soul to the service of his guru. Indeed, he served him so well that in a short time he was recognized as Shamananda's chief disciple, a very powerful preacher and initiating guru himself. In fact, there is a saying that a good disciple becomes a good teacher, and a spiritual master may have innumerable followers who call him their guru, but are disciples in name only. Only a true disciple who has dedicated himself completely to his spiritual master is imbued with all the powers of the guru. Rasikanand began to travel with his guru, during which time he became a very intimate disciple. Shamanand bestowed upon him the service of Sri Radha Govinda Dev Ji at Sri Gopi Balapur. And here in this book, I have a picture of that temple. Let me show that. So can you all see my can you see the book? So here, this is the temple.
If you stop sharing the screen, that will be easier for us to see then.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep, now we can see the whole.
Right. So this is the temple at Gopi Ballapur, where he was given the service of serving the deities, and he stayed there for some time. And he did such nice service there that this temple became very famous. And here below this are some of the paraphernalia used by Rasikanand Prabhu, his chanting beads and his flutes. Apparently, it seems like he played flutes. So this note below the picture mentions that there are some flutes here, although I can't see them. Maybe they're under the cloth.
That's nice. Thank you.
Okay, let me start sharing again. By the way, anyway, since I'm showing, right, let me show you. Here is his samadhi. His samadhi is in Vrindavan, near the samadhi of his own spiritual master. So his and his spiritual master's samadhi are both in the same temple in Vrindavan, Radha Sham Sundar temple. That is his Pushp samadhi, sorry, and this one is his actual samadhi at Ramina. So this is his actual samadhi, and his Pushp samadhi is with his spiritual master samadhi in Vrindavan. Okay, so I start sharing again. So so he stayed there at Sri Radha Govind Dev Ji's temple at Sri Gopi Ballapur, and he served them for a few years, Rasikanand became totally engaged in their lordship service, and the devotees were charmed by his excellent services. At Gopi Balapur and other places, he began to seriously take up the preaching of the message of Sri Gaura Nityananda. Shyamananda invested Rasikanand with such spiritual power that he was able to convert many criminals, atheists, Muslims, and other fallen spirit souls to the path of devotion, bestowing the jewel of prema upon them all. It is not possible to count the number of living entities that were extricated from the ocean of material existence by Rasikanand Deva's association. He was always intoxicated with the chanting of the holy name. Who cannot but be overwhelmed by hearing about his uncommon qualities? Bhakti Ratnakar, chapter 15, verse 86. Many virtuous kings and zamindars, such as the king of Mayur Bhanj named Vaidyanath Bhanj, the king of Patashpur known as Gajpati, and Chandrabhanu, the king of Moina, took shelter at his lotus feet. Wherever he used to go, people used to always fight among themselves that who would host him and to whose home he should go. So he was always in great demand, so as to say, wherever he went. Everyone wanted to have him visit their homes and surrender to him and get his association. So these are all the big people, kings and zamindars who became his disciples. So by his influence, he converted not only kings and zamindars, but also criminals, rogues, atheists, Muslims, and even animals, as we would see. So for all kinds of spirit souls, starting from animals till the kings and zamindars. By his influence, many atheists and non-believers were transformed into devotees of Sri Gaura Nityananda. By the tremendous influence of Rasikanand's preaching, many rogues, robbers, and atheists were delivered from their sinful activities and received his mercy. He distributed the jewel of devotion as he traveled from village to village in the company of his disciples. On one occasion, a wicked Muslim tried to silence Rasikananda by having him attacked by an intoxicated elephant. But Rasikananda was able to transform even the elephant into a disciple and engage him in the service of Vishnu and the Vaishnavas. This is described in this book that when this elephant who was intoxicated, and when elephants are intoxicated, they just completely go mad. They'll destroy homes and trees, whatever comes in their way. They'll just break everything and disrupt everything. So when the elephant in this state came towards him, Rasikananda took some water in his hand and sprinkled on the elephant and chanted Gauranga, Gauranga, Krishna, Krishna. And just by chanting these names, he was able to calm down the elephant. And that elephant, it is mentioned in the book that the elephant seemed to make some sounds which also sounded like the names of God, as if the elephant was taking the names of God. And that elephant completely became mesmerized, so as to say, by Rasikanand Prabhu and started obeying all his instructions. It is said that that elephant eventually became his disciple, and he could always understand what Rasikanand Prabhu was saying. So he used to really obey his instructions. I don't know how that can happen, but that is what is mentioned used to happen, and this is actual history. So that I mean, we've even seen in circuses and all, right, people are able to tame animals and make them follow their instructions. And here Rasikanand Prabhu was able to do that just by chanting the names of Lord. And that elephant was named Gopal Das. And that elephant, whenever he was called, he would come and listen to whatever Rasikanand Prabhu had to say, and he would exactly do what he was asked to do. So that's very amazing pastime for me.
And
So
elephants tend to have this mood. Actually, they have a good relationship with humans. This is unique. This is unique.
right, right. So there's another pastime I was reading in the book about this elephant. So there was a Muslim, another Muslim king probably. He heard that there is a great Vaishnava in Odisha who has talked to Lord Jagannath, and who has done many miracles like controlling animals and all, but he couldn't believe it. So he really wanted to see this with his eyes. So he sent one of his eunuch servants to Rasikanand Prabhu's temple in Gopi Balapur, and he said that you go and tell him in a very polite way, don't challenge him and please don't offend him. Go and tell him in a very polite way that the king really wants to see your power, and if you could send some 15 to 20 wild elephants to his kingdom, then he would really believe you. So he said that, and that eunuch was not allowed to come in the area of the temple, and in fact in that whole village, because probably that village was a Brahmin's village and he was a Yavan. So he was waiting outside the village. This message was passed on to his disciples, and Rasikanand Prabhu told his disciples that you go and tell him that I don't have any magical powers, I don't do this kind of magic. I am just a servant of Krishna, and if Krishna desires for this to happen, then it will happen. So then Rasikanand Prabhu called his elephant disciple Gopal Das, and he told him in his ear that this Yavan king wants to test my power. So if you think it's okay to do this, can you please tell some of your wild elephant friends in the jungle to go to his kingdom? So Gopal Das immediately agreed, and he went into the forest, and he somehow, I don't know how they communicate, but he was able to send 13 to 15 elephants to the Muslim king's kingdom, and he had made a special area to host those elephants. It was a walled, a place which was completely walled with just one entrance, so that as soon as the elephants enter that place, they can close the door. So Rasikanand Prabhu had already told him that when you go there with your elephant friends, let your friends enter that place, but you don't enter it. So all the elephants entered that place, but Gopal Das did not. And as soon as they entered, they closed the doors. So, but with that Muslim king was convinced that yes, he really has some special powers, and he even surrendered. That Muslim king also surrendered to Rasikanand Prabhu. That's one pastime I read in the book. So
very nice, very nice.
yeah. So all those who witnessed this amazing event were overwhelmed with astonishment at Rasikanand's spiritual power, and the evil Muslim zamindar himself came and surrendered to him. Another vicious wild elephant was tamed by Rasikanand's transcendental influence, and henceforward was known as Gopal Das. Okay, this is the same elephant I was talking about. Later, two jungle tigers likewise gave up their ferocious nature. So I read about this tiger pastime also. Let me narrate that also quickly. So once Rasikanand Prabhu was traveling from one village to another, and in the night time when it was very dark, they lost their way and they ended up in a jungle, in a deep forest, and there were two tigers in their front, on their blocking their way. So all the disciples became very scared except Rasikanand Prabhu. So Rasikanand Prabhu stepped in front, stepped forward, let his disciples be at the back. He came forward and started talking to the tigers as if they were humans. He said, "My dear tigers, you have been very sinful, and that is why you have ended up in this species of life. Please give up your ferocious nature and become devotees of Lord Krishna." And so he started talking to them like that and giving them instructions. And when the tigers heard that, they immediately melted, and they gave up their ferocious nature, and they started shedding tears. And it is said they also became his disciples, and then they even became their guides, and they escorted them out of the forest to the nearest village. And when the villagers found out about this, they came to see the tigers. But Rasikanand Prabhu told the tigers that, okay, now you may go back. Always remember Krishna, and keep chanting his names, and that way you will be liberated. So the tigers followed his instructions and they went back to the forest. Another a very amazing pastime. So one year during Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra festival, a wonderful pastime took place. Rasikanand Deva was preaching somewhere else in the country, but when he realized that it was time for Rath Yatra, He dropped everything and rushed like the wind in order to come to Nilachal in the time for festival. But he was already late. The festival had already begun. And Lord Jagannath, who was feeling separation from his dear devotee Rasikanand, caused the rath to stop somewhere in the middle, and it would just not move. So the king tried all that he could to make the rath move. He even summoned elephants to push it, but the rath could, no one could move the rath. Then Lord Jagannath, seeing that the king was becoming frustrated, informed him that he was waiting for his dear devotee Rasik. And when Rasikanand Deva arrived, carrying with him many offerings of silk, cloths, and other presents, he paid his obeisances. And then the king requested him, because the king already knew why the rath is not moving. So the king requested him, could you please pull the rope? And he just pulled the rope slightly, and the rath immediately started to move. Uh, the same rath which could not be moved by elephants, and with all the effort that was possible to, which was tried to move the rath, just by Rasikanand Prabhu's pulling the rope, it just moved. Later, the king requested Rasikanand to accept a gift of land so he might establish a temple there. Rasikanand requested the place known as Full Tota Mutt, which is now known as Kunj Mutt. There he installed the deity of Sri Bhatt Krishna. The deity is now known as Sri Sri Radha Rasik Rai. Rasikanand had three sons, Sri Radhanand, Sri Krishna Govind, and Sri Radha Krishna. The present servants of Sri Sri Radha Govind Dev at Gopi Balapur are their descendants. He composed Sri Shamanand Sataka, Srimad Bhagwat Ashtaka, Kunja Keli Dwadashaka, as well as other hymns and songs. Accepting the order of his guru, Sri Shamanand, on his head, Rasikanand preached the message of Gauranga in the world for approximately 16 years. Thereafter, he entered into his eternal pastimes through the lotus feet of Gopinath at Ramuna. That is the Shir Gopinath, Shir Chor Gopinath temple at Ramuna. So it seems like he left his body there. Shri Shri Rasikanand Prabhu ki jai.
Well done. That was really good. Very, very good. And are there any questions for Uddhav? In terms of who was his spiritual master again?
Shamanand Prabhu, yeah. So he was also a very powerful personality. He was a contemporary of Narottam Das Thakur, and he was called Dukhi Krishna Das at first. And then when he found the ankles of Radharani, and Lalita Devi Sakhi came to find them. So he actually met Lalita Sakhi, and she told him, I'm looking for the ankles of my friend. And he said, is this the ankles? She said, yes. So he said, no, but I wouldn't give them to you. You have to first show me to whom they belong. So he actually took him to Radharani, and then he realized, oh, okay, this is probably Radharani. He guessed it, and he gave those anklets to her. But before doing that, he put them on his forehead to offer respects, and that left a mark on his forehead, which always remained. So he could not wipe it even if he wanted to. And Jiva Goswami said, now uh, let this be your permanent tilak, and this tilak would be called Shamanandi tilak. All of your disciples can wear this tilak. So when he went back to Bengal to meet his original spiritual master, he saw a different tilak, and he became upset. He thought maybe he has changed his sampradaya, or he has changed his guru, something like that. So he chastised him, and he said, you go outside, you're not allowed in the ashram, and go and sit at the bank of Ganga. So he did that, and later the Lord appeared in his dreams, and he told him that what you've done is wrong. So he went there and accepted him back. He asked him, whose disciple are you? And he cried, and he said, I'm your disciple. So he embraced and accepted him. And his spiritual master told him to wipe off that tilak, but he tried so hard, but he couldn't do it.
I think who gave him that name? Dukhi Krishna was the original name, his spiritual master, and then Shyamananda was given by
There are different versions. Yeah, one version says Jiva Goswami gave that name. One version says that Lalita Sakhi gave that name.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's good. And there was a team of them, wasn't it? Shyamananda, Srinivasacharya, and
and Narottam Das Thakur, the three.
Yeah, really amazing pastime. Yeah, good. Anybody else? And I like Hitesh's comment, and also Ritesh says, very nice pastime narrated in a nice way. Thank you, Uddhava Prabhu. And Uddhava very well and clearly narrated. Really enjoyed. So it looks like you're going to, well, you're probably free tomorrow. You can do the Bhagavatam. I'm not sure if we, actually, no, we'll probably do Jagannath Das Babaji again. Today, yeah, because we should give it the proper time. And you've done well, because last time I remember I did Rasikananda in about 10 minutes. But it's very nice when you relate the life, and because we want his blessings, we want his blessings on this day. He will give his blessings. A very powerful person. So
right.
And where did,
Prabhuji, I really didn't know about these personalities, but when we get a chance,
yeah, that's true. It's true. And okay, let me just stop this.
Intention of finding or buying any book, but Anand Gaurang Prabhu, right? You know him very well. So he said, why don't you look at some of these books by Bhakti Vikas Swami? And then I saw this. I thought, oh, it's his disappearance day tomorrow, right? He said, yeah, maybe, I don't know. But then I knew it's his disappearance day, and I just immediately took this book. So it seemed like it was arranged by the Lord so that his devotee could be nicely glorified.
Yeah, that's
Is it possible to see the cover again, please, Prabhu?
Here.
Yeah, I've seen this one.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Very nice book. And so today, see if we can go out and find a book on Jagannath Das Goswami. Yeah? Good. Okay, thank you so much. Well done.